Here comes the money. You're now listening to the Gambling with Gold podcast with Jason Gold. Presented by Champions Round.
Welcome to Gambling with Gold. My name is Jason Gold. This is Dan Titus, and you are listening to episode 99 of our podcast. One more until 100. That'll be our season predictions. Can't wait for that come next week. We are talking about the AFC West, the best division in football. We've saved it for last because this thing is absolutely out of control, bonker. Perhaps one of the best divisions in the history of football, at least that I can remember in my lifetime. I can't wait to look at how good this team is. So let's start off with the odds here. Kansas City plus 175 to win the division. Chargers plus 220. Denver Broncos plus 260 with Russell Wilson, and the Las Vegas Raiders plus 650. Win totals: Kansas City 10.5, Chargers 10, Denver 10, and the Raiders at 8.5. Playoff odds for each team: Kansas City minus 210 to make the playoffs, plus 170 to miss. Chargers minus 200 and plus 160. Denver minus 145 and plus 120. And the Las Vegas Raiders plus 150 to make the playoffs and minus 195 to miss the playoffs. All right, so do any of those numbers stick out to you off the top? And do you think any of them are actionable?
Oh, man, that's there's a lot to unpack here. I think we talked about it before, but I can't remember. But I know that you're very bullish on the Chargers. I am too. I love them at the division at plus 220. To me, I think that number is still too long, mainly because of how good this team was last year, the mistakes that they made, primarily being in short yardage situations.
And their stupid fucking running defense.
Yeah, and they've done something to address that. So I love what they did in the offensive line. I love what they did on the defensive line. To me, I think that this is the team that you could see take that next leap in this division. But who is it going to come at the sacrifice of? And it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chiefs' win total is too high. For what they've done in this offseason, I'm a bit concerned because they've lost a lot of key pieces. And I think we can trust in Pat Mahomes, but Pat struggled a little bit last year. And I think we saw, Andy Reid kind of went back into his old bag of tricks with the Eagles here of just poor clock management, bad decisions. Mahomes is more erratic with the ball. I don't think it's going to change a little bit. I mean, Tyreek's not there. That's a big piece. You still have Kelsey there. Obviously, that's a safety blanket, but I could think this team and their win total might be a little too high. The Broncos is the one that gives me the biggest concern because I'm like, I could see them being really fucking good, really good. Mm-hmm. And I could also see Russell Wilson being the Russell Wilson that we saw the last 2 years, where it's like starts out extremely slow, does some heroic stuff to make him come back. Maybe they win, maybe they don't. But he's got way more weapons on offense and defense than he did in Seattle the last couple of years. So, this one's going to be interesting. So, bets I've already placed now: Chargers to win the division at plus 220. The win totals to me are a little bit. I don't know if I want to bet on any of the win totals because they're so close together, and this division is going to beat the shit out of each other. The one value though that I see is I do think that the Raiders can get to 9 wins. That team and the additions that they've made in the offseason, 9 wins seems like the right mark. I think they can finish 9-8. I don't know if they can exceed that. They could, but this is just going to be a bloodbath of a division, man. They're going to be beating each other. I think the Chargers come out on top, though.
Let's go through strength of schedule first, and then I'll kind of get into it. Kansas City has the hardest schedule in the NFL this season. Chargers have the 13th hardest. Denver has the 16th hardest. And the Las Vegas Raiders have the 3rd hardest. I am very torn on this division for a lot of different reasons. I love the Chargers this season for obvious reasons. I think the offense is going to be absolutely elite. That offensive line is great. Austin Eckler, they're playmakers. They have a 3rd playmaker coming up in Joshua Palmer. Who I would suggest that everybody draft at the end of their drafts. We talked about on the last podcast about not waiting or not picking up Khalil Shakir, a guy that I'm high on at the end of drafts. Joshua Palmer is the guy at wide receiver that you need in home leagues. Auction, wait until $1 or $2. Go get Josh Palmer. If you're in home leagues, that 13th, 14th round pick, Josh Palmer absolutely going to be a smash spot. If Mike Williams or Keenan Allen goes down, he comes into a massive target share in that offense, and the offense is going to throw the crap out of the ball. So plus 220 for them to win the division. I am not personally on, but I'm close. I'm just a little scared about that defense and how much that running defense is going to improve, because Brandon Staley's defense is designed for you to allow
The run.
decent running games. Not as great much as they did last year, but it's designed to allow the run and protect against the pass.
Yep.
J.C. Jackson,
No big plays.
J.C. Jackson is injured. Khalil Mack still has to prove it at 31 years old. I want to say that they've improved. I think that they've improved. They did some great things in the offseason. It's more about me seeing it. As for the other side of the ball, the people that probably don't know as much about football are concerned about is Brandon Staley and his decision-making.
Yeah.
I have absolutely zero problem with Brandon Staley's decision-making. Everything is analytical. Everything's well calculated. Everything's done well in advance. He's not shooting from the hip on any of these decisions. He has a top 5 quarterback in Justin Herbert, a guy who's the best quarterback in the NFL, bar none, over the past 2 years on 3rd and 4th downs. That is not a fluke. That is something that will continue. So I don't have any concerns with that. Health for every team matters. It's just a matter of, in this division with this much firepower, do the Chargers have a good enough defense in order to win 11 or 12 games, which is what it's going to take in this division to win the division? Yep. I don't know yet. I'm close. I still actually like the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm a little scared about it for obvious reasons, but that offensive line has now turned into one of the best units in the NFL. They have now 4 running backs on the roster, 3 of which I think are capable. I don't think that Ronald Jones is capable of doing shit. The Tyreek
made the roster thing, though.
The Tyreek, yeah, he did. I don't understand why. The Tyreek Hill thing is obviously a big deal. Kelsey being a year older, but I do think that they did a really good job of addressing some of the stuff in the offseason at wide receiver. You're going to have Juju, who I love this season. In fact, let's give out a couple bets on that. Juju over 74.5 receptions this year and over 750.5 receiving yards. Those are both absolute stone cold locks to me. Some of my favorite player props out there. I think he's going to be utilized heavily in this offense. MVS, Sky Moore, you're going to have options there. And you have a better offensive line, and you still have the best trigger man in the NFL and Patrick Mahomes. And despite Andy Reid's faults, and he has some, still one of the best play callers, play designers, and during the week head coaches in the NFL. Game day, okay, you've got some issues sometimes. But he's going to give Mahomes all the keys that he needs to succeed this year. And I trust in that wide receiver room and in that offense. The defense, though, is, I have no idea what to expect out of the Kansas City defense. And honestly, the only defense in this division that I trust is the Broncos. And I think that's the team that I'm down on the most in this division. So I really don't know what I'm doing here. But Kansas City, they have the least amount of games missed due to injury in 2021. That is going to regress heavily. That is the thing, probably more than anything, that scares me the most about betting the Kansas City Chiefs this year. However, I do have one bet on the Kansas City Chiefs that I am really in on, minus 210 to make the playoffs. I see there's no way that the Kansas City Chiefs are not in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it's hard for me to envision a scenario where they take that far of a dip that they don't make the playoffs. But this division is probably going to have 3 representatives in the playoffs. So, man, it's just tough. Like, I think that the Raiders are going to be a lot better than people expect them to be. I could see a scenario where they get to 10 wins, and then that puts pressure on, the division to say, like, all right, how's this all shake out? So those divisional wins are going to be really critical for these wild card teams potentially sneaking into the playoffs here. I want to go back to the Chiefs for a second.
Yep.
I do like Travis Kelce's over 9.5 touchdowns. I think he's going to be more of a centerpiece in that red zone with Tyreek now gone. And he's just a natural safety blanket for Mahomes. Very trusted hands. The only person that he's really coming back with familiarity other than Mecole Hardman, who doesn't really generate that many targets in the red zone. So I like that over. I'm also under CEH, under 5.5 touchdowns. There's something about Clyde Edwards-Helaire that they brought in a whole bunch of bigger backs to support. I mean, they also have Jerick McKinnon there. I think he could also take over some of the third down role. But when it comes down to the goal line, it's not going to be CEH. He got stuffed. Like, remember it like it was yesterday, him getting stuffed like 6 times in the red zone or at the goal line. So I think they're going to find ways to use Ronald Jones and other people to score, which is pretty familiar to any Andy Reid offense. Like, he always has like a bigger guy down the goal line anyway. So I think there could be some troubles for CEH there, but other than that, I think he'll be all right. Juju, I get the hype. if he can stay healthy, man, it's sky's the limit for him. He could be the second leader in targets on that team. I've seen MVS more of a deep threat. And then Sky Moore, I know the fantasy Twitter community is obsessed with him, but I think it's going to get time for him to get acclimated. So he won't be like a top option, but Mahomes spreads the ball around. So I think this offense is still going to be prolific. How do you feel about losing Honey Badger, though? Like, I think that was kind of like he was a guy that I felt was like the heartbeat of that defense. And without him there, I just feel like there's going to be red flags for this Kansas City Chiefs team. Not to mention their hard ass schedule, which is like the worst in the league. So I think there's going to be some bumpy roads here.
The offense or the defense definitely scares me, as I mentioned. I don't know what to expect from them. The whole thing about the Kansas City Chiefs is, at least for me, is like if that defense is 20th or better in the NFL, they'll be fine. This offense is still going to be prolific enough with Mahomes and all their other weapons and Andy Reid, and I'm not worried about it. If they're like they were at the beginning of last season, where they're like 31st, 30th in total defense,
it's going to be trouble.
It's going to be a lot of trouble. So that I do like. Look, Karlaftis has showed in preseason that he was really, really good. A pick that I was down on, to be honest with you, and he's performed really well. Trent McDuffie's in there. I like their cornerback and their secondary, despite the fact that they lost Tyrann Mathieu a little bit more than I like probably their front seven. We'll see. It depends. I think that they had a really good draft on the defensive side of the ball. If those rookies perform anywhere near what they showed in preseason, I am not as concerned about the defense as perhaps I am right now, but definitely big question marks all over the place. Although, if we go to the Raiders comment, I have them at 9-8 on the season, so I like the over 8.5. Yep. Just because I think that they have grown-ups in the coaching staff right now and at GM, I think they'll be. Even you saw it when Bisaccia took over, right? He's not a good head coach.
No,
he had his own deficiencies, but he was a grown-up. That's what that team needed. So I think that with Josh McDaniels and the rest of that staff, they have grown-ups in place. I think they'll be good there. Derek Carr should have an excellent year with Renfro, Waller, and obviously Devontae Adams. The running game, Zamir White, maybe Josh Jacobs, we know stinks, so that could be an issue. The biggest issue for their offense is that offensive line is fucking god-awful. And that's going to be a huge issue for them, especially when you look at the fact that their defense is also a liability. They have Max Crosby. They have Chandler Jones. That's about it. That secondary, not very good, especially in this division. They probably have the worst defense. Huge red flags for me all over the place. I would not be surprised, honestly, to see them be prolific on offense and go 7-10 this year. Would not shock me. I'm trusting the fact that they have adults. Derek Carr is going to take another step forward. Devontae Adams, like that offense will be able to win 9 games this season. But I definitely have some real question marks. And the other thing with them, we've seen their drafts, not this year, but the prior 5. We've seen what's happened.
It's terrible. They're releasing everyone.
They have no depth. So if this team gets down with the injury bug, they're in way more trouble than a lot of teams in this division or around the NFL because of the lack of depth. So big red flags for me on the Raiders this year. But ultimately, I do have trust in that offense to be able to get 9 wins this year.
Yeah, I placed a very early bet on Derek Carr to lead the league in passing at 10-1. I'm just excited about the weapons that are actually healthy. If Darren Waller can keep it together, you have Hunter Renfrow there, who's fresh off 100 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and then obviously you get Devontae Adams, who already has rapport with Derek Carr. They're gonna have to put points on the board to keep up in this division, especially with such a bad defense. Like there's a strong case that this dude could definitely do it, and he's 4th in the NFL over the last 3 years in passing yards. So I think Derek Carr's gonna have a good season. So that's one of the guys that if you're playing fantasy, you miss out on some of the good top 8 quarterbacks. Like I think you could take him right around Kirk Cousins area, maybe even around Russell Wilson. I think he's going to be better than Russell Wilson this year.
You know what? That's actually no, it's not. That's actually really interesting. So let me look at this for a second, because for him to lead the league in passing makes a lot of sense to me. So Derek Carr over 4,450.5 passing yards. I like that a lot. One thing that I had written down here is that the Raiders face the 3rd most difficult schedule versus the pass, and they have a terrible secondary. So they may get into a lot of these shootouts. Again, Great for Derek Carr to lead the league in passing. Great for him to go over that 4,450.5 passing yards. It also probably means that the interception total, which is 12.5, maybe that's an over also just based on volume, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, Derek Carr's been known. I feel like he's been more known for his fumbling than his interceptions, but
Yeah.
with just the straight volume of it, he's going to be passing the ball a lot. So that's just going to open up more opportunities for error.
I would also say, I don't know if you can bet this, but you can on a per game basis, but I would probably bet the sack totals for the opposition overs early in the season until the number adjusts. We saw what happened when he gets pressured a lot. He goes down pretty easily. And that offensive line is not going to be good, and they're going to pass the ball so much that, if you're getting these totals early in the season that are, 3.5 sacks, 2.5 sacks in a game total for the opposition, maybe a really good opportunity to bet those overs.
Yeah, and what are you doing with Josh Jacobs? Did you throw any bets on him? Because I know that there's obviously they didn't pick up his 5th-year option.
It's been all adjusted for.
But they got rid of Kenyon Drake, so maybe he's got more opportunity now.
Yeah, his
750 seems a bit low to me.
Yeah,
but it's just his health. I don't, and his fumbling.
So Josh Jacobs, 750.5 rushing yards. I mean,
to stay away from me because I think that they put it at a low enough number that I'm like, I feel like he can get that, but I want to bet the under just on the sheer, he just hasn't had any opportunities to really be a 3-down back. So I don't see how that changes really. He's great at the goal line though, but
yeah, I'm probably too scared to do that. It's probably been adjusted too far in the market right now. If anything, I would probably lean towards the over, but I think the Zamir White's going to be pretty involved. The only rushing total in this division that I had circled that I'll probably bet an under on is Austin Eckler under 800.5 rushing yards, just because I think that he'll be utilized more in the passing game. Want to save his legs, keep him fresh, probably use. I know that the running back Isaiah Spiller and whoever the hell else is going to make the roster.
Joshua Kelly, I think, is the number 2 right now.
Yeah, they were not utilized well in the preseason and did not perform well in the preseason, but I do think they're going to be more utilized than they have in the years past. I think that Eckler will be more as a receiver. 800.5 yards, we talked about with Breece Hall. It's still a pretty sizable number, even though, Austin Eckler is going to be, one of the top 5 fantasy backs this season. I think it'll be more in the passing game than it is as a running back.
Yeah, I was trying to look to see. I wish they had combined rushing and receiving touchdowns.
Rushing and receiving touchdowns. I saw 1,400.5 yards for Eckler, but I thought he's going to go well over his receiving.
Yeah, I think with the passing work he's going to get. I think he's going to clear that. I'm looking at his rushing TDs are sitting at over 8.5 right now.
Yeah, my problem with that is just in theory he's going to get so many opportunities.
Yeah, right.
He gets so many opportunities, right? So okay, unless you get into this Rams situation last year where they only scored 10 rushing touchdowns, but that was because Stafford had 41 passing touchdowns. Right. And just and I think
80% of their touchdowns became through the air. That's got to regress, right?
So yeah, people are down on Cam Akers this year for obvious reasons. I get it, but I still think the guy's going to score 8, 9, 10 touchdowns just because he's going to have opportunity in the regression where they end up running the ball in more. Unless you think that Herbert's going to throw 45 touchdowns or something like that, Eckler's just going to get a lot of opportunities, and he's not he's not going to be in the game, inside the 10-yard line, inside the 20-yard line. He's going to be there. Right. So I would be scared by that. I understand the angle. I just probably wouldn't touch it myself.
I hear that. Makes sense.
All right. We haven't talked about the Denver Broncos, really.
We have not.
So 16th hardest schedule, plus 260 to win the division. Win total's 10. In theory, this should be a pretty good team. Great young defense, offense with Russell Wilson. I just worry about it all clicking. I don't know what Russell Wilson looks like outside of Seattle. And for most quarterbacks, we'd be like, they'll be fine. It'll all work. I don't know about it with Russ. Tim Patrick's down. The tight end position, Albert O being used in the fourth quarter of preseason games, not a great look for him. Daltrich has been injured. So tight end, pretty much at this point, is nullified. So you're at Cortland Sutton, who we probably both really high on this year. I'm over 900.5 receiving yards this season. I love that. I don't know about Jerry Jeudy. All the advanced stats say that he's due for a breakout year, all the next-gen stats, all the air yard stuff, but we haven't seen it in 2 years. He's put up all of that sort of analytic great stuff, but it doesn't translate to actionable stuff on the field. So I have my concerns about that offense a little bit. The Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams thing's a little weird. I do not like that offensive line at all. And then you're also bringing in Nathaniel Hackett, new offensive coordinator, Russ learning a new system. There's just a lot of question marks for me offensively. Defensively, I think they'll be fine. And I think they definitely have the best defense in this division.
Yeah, it's the continuity question. Not much of it across, if you look from season to season, just a lot of moving parts, new coaching staff, new players, time to get acclimated. Didn't really see much of Russ in the preseason, enough to really get a good feel for his grasp of the offense. He's a smart dude. Other than the whole "Let's Ride" campaign, that was probably the most excitement he's generated this
Yeah.
offseason. But I think it definitely hurt losing Tim Patrick early in the season. KJ Hamler, I don't think is a reliable third receiver there. Due to stone hands, great, fast as hell, but stone hands. So it's really based on Cortland Sutton coming off of his second year removed from an ACL tear. Big play guy, can go get the ball, point of attack. I love it. And then you have Jerry Jeudy as the route runner, the guy that's going to work you between the seams. But with Russ, though, man, we saw him not be as good as last year. Maybe it was the thumb. Maybe he was hurt. Is he going to be better? This team is going to ride as far as Russ can really take them. I think Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon are actually going to be more of probably a 60-40, maybe 65-35 split. Yeah, like it's definitely going to be closer to that. I don't think Melvin Gordon's just going to go away. So I was looking at Javonte's rushing totals at 945. It seems high to me, assuming that if Melvin Gordon goes down, he's going to blow through it. But if this is a true committee and this offense is balanced and they're anchoring off a good defense, I don't see Javonte just going off to 945. Like I think it's a similar running back by committee where, he might have a game where he goes for 50 rushing yards and Gordon goes for 70, 80 because they're just splitting they're riding the hot hand. So, despite Melvin saying and admitting that he's going to be second, he's going to be split out series, like I'm not really too concerned. I think Melvin Gordon's actually a pretty good value back end running back if you're going 0 RB for fantasy. But yeah, this Denver team, man, at 10 wins, I think it's a lot to get behind, but I see a path for success. It's probably going to be a bet that I make midseason to see how they start. We'll see. And then make a bet midseason.
I am on the under 10 and I am on them to miss the playoffs plus 120. I don't feel good about it.
That's an interesting bet.
I don't feel great about it just because this offense, if the offense puts it together, they're probably a 11 or 12 win team. Yeah. 10 just seems high for all the unknowns. I think this offense just might not be as good as we all think it could be with Russell Wilson. So I definitely have my concerns. I would not put them up in the same category as Kansas City or the Chargers. This is ultimately an offensive league, and that offensive line I think is probably the biggest hindrance to me going all in at this point because Russ under pressure, man. Look, this younger guy in Seattle on that turf can run around. He's on natural grass, man, and he's 31, 32 years old. He doesn't have the same wheels. He's got to depend on that arm a lot more. Could be an issue. Could be a real issue.
Yeah, he was 20th in pressured throws last year. Not the best.
So
not the best.
I definitely am a little down on Denver Broncos. All right, let me read through all of my bets, see if you have any more to lay on us. Kansas City to make the playoffs minus 210. Juju over 74.5 receptions and over 750.5 receiving yards. Austin Eckler under 800.5 rushing yards. Cortland Sutton over 900.5 receiving yards. Denver under 10 wins. Denver to miss the playoffs plus 120. Oh, the last one that I did not mention at all. Mike Williams under 1,000.5 receiving yards. This is simply a bet. We talked about this on a player prop one before. Simply a matter of his health. He's only had one season where he put it together where he was healthy. That was last year. It is not a matter of opportunity or skill. I think that he is obviously more than capable of going over this number. I just do not trust him to be healthy this entire season. So I'm going to take the under on the 1,000.5 receiving yards for Mike Williams. That's all I got for the AFC West.
Yeah, so I'm going Chargers to win the division at plus 220. I like Derek Carr 10-1 to lead the league in passing. I'll also take the over on his passing yards, at 4,500.
And the over interceptions, 12.5 for the same reason.
Yes, facts. And another one that I like, a little bit juiced up, but Keenan Allen under 7.5 touchdowns. This dude just consistently gives you 100 receptions and 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. I think that Mike Williams is going to be better. And if we're talking about the ascension of Josh Palmer, that's going to go somewhere. And let's not forget, they also brought over Gerald Everett, who could be a solid red zone target, as Jared Cook, had a decent season with the Chargers last year. So, and if we look into all these game script related things, if the Chargers get up, they run more, they pass less. 7.5 seems too high for me for Keenan Allen. He's only done that twice in his career. So I'm taking the under on that one as well.
Fair enough. All right, let's close out the podcast as we have every podcast. MVP and LVP for this division. Lay it on me.
MVP. I gotta go with Herbert. With the boy here, because I think it's going to be him, man. He started off his career 2 great seasons. This is the one where he's got the most talent, the best offensive line that he's had, with some defensive help. So if Brandon Staley can get his shit together, learn from some of those mistakes, still be aggressive, but know when to use that aggression, I think they're going to win a lot of ball games, and they could win the AFC West here. So I definitely like them to win the division here, and they'll do it off the strength of Justin Herbert if he has a good season.
Like it. I'm on Herbert also, but I also added in a little Brandon Staley. I think this is the year where he gets his due for being the most forward-thinking, analytical coach in the NFL from a game theory perspective.
Are you putting in coach of the year?
I'm not, because I don't think that they're going to improve enough year over year where he's going to get that. He already won 9 games last year. Usually you have to improve 4 or more wins.
Dramatic, right?
Yeah, so that's why I love the Kevin O'Connell one, because I think that they're going to go from what they won last year, 7 games. I think they'll probably win 10 or 11 this year. That's kind of the guy that I'm banking on. But I do think that Staley will get some consideration for that award. LVP, what do you got?
Man, LVP. So many good names in this division, man. It's hard to pinpoint. I'm going to go with you and fade Jerry Jeudy. Just got to see him put it together, man. He has a lot of opportunities to be great, but he just keeps on getting hurt. And I don't know. Russ is a better quarterback for sure, but I don't know. I'm still kind of out on Jerry Jeudy. So I guess my guy is Jerry Jeudy.
Given the expectations within the building and within the NFL community, I'm going to go with hustle and bustle. Russell Wilson, LVP of the division. I think that the expectations are really high. I think he's going to get sacked a lot. I think it's going to take time for him to adjust to this offense. I think that next year, if he has a great year in Denver, it's going to be next year when they build around him and they figure everything out. I think it's going to be tough this year. He's my divisional LVP.
So Russ is cooked this year.
For 1 year. For 1 year.
1 year.
For 1 year. I just need to see it this year. I think it's going to be a little bit bigger adjustment than everybody thinks it's going to be. So give him a year in Denver. Let him get his shit figured out. Let him get some more weapons that he likes and approves of. And I think that Denver could go a lot of places next year, especially that defense is only going to get better as time goes on. And some of these young guys get a little bit better. So Denver, I'm probably high on next year. Maybe at the end of the season, I'm higher on Denver. But I think it's going to be a very, very slow start for the Broncos. In fact, Seattle Seahawks money line week 1 Monday Night Football. Let's go.
I like it. If there's one game that Pete Carroll's going to get up for, it's to beat Russell Wilson, because the rest of the season is going to be a complete shit show. So
do I actually believe that? Probably not. But will I bet them at plus 4.5? Yeah, you're goddamn right. I will.
4.5. Yeah, I think it's worth it. Carroll's going to figure out something, and he knows Russ well. So I think they'll throw out some defensive looks to keep it interesting. I don't know that I'd get him to win outright, but 4.5, I can ride with it.
All right. That does it for Gambling with Gold, episode 99. Can't wait for episode number 100 to send us off into the NFL season. Dan, I'll talk to you next time. Good luck with all of your bets. Talk to you soon. See you.
Yes, sir.